Gittin Daf Ayin Dalid. We begin with the Mishnah close to the top of the Daf. This is the only Mishnah on the Daf which the Gemara will discuss. It discusses the halacha of a tanai that's made on a get, how much time you have to fulfill it, and is the get going to be chal right away or only when the tanai is actually fulfilled. So let's begin the Mishnah. The Mishnah has two cases where somebody made a tanai. He wants to give his wife a get on the condition that he gets paid 200 zuz. So in the first case, he says, this is your get on the condition that you give me 200 zuz. So the Mishnah paskin someone ambiguously, she's divorced and she has to give it. And we'll explain what that means. The second case is where he says, here's your divorce on the condition that you give me 200 zuz within the next 30 days. Now he said a time limit. So here, the halacha is very simply like he says, if he receives the money within 30 days, she's divorced. If not, she's not divorced. Now, Shimon Gamliel brings a story in Sidon. The Gemara is going to ask, what does that have to do with anything? The story in Sidon, somebody said to his wife, here is your get on the condition that you give me my shirt or my coat, and she lost the coat. So Chacham said she can still be divorced. She can give him the money. All right, now we begin the Gemara. The Gemara brings a machlokes between Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda. What does the Mishnah mean when it says she's divorced and she has to give the money? In the first case, she's divorced, she has to give the money. And the same machlokes appears in Kiddushin, and the Gemara will explain why we need both of them. So, Rav Huna holds that she's divorced from now. The get is chal right now, and she has an obligation to give the money at some point. But the divorce is chal right now, and if the get is torn up, but before she actually gives the money, it doesn't matter because the divorce is chal now, and it doesn't have to be around when the money is received. Now, Rav Yehuda disagrees, and he says, no, the get is chal when she gives the money. It's not chal from now. So wait until he receives the money, that's when the get is chal, and if it's torn up at that point, she needs a new get. Now, the same machlokes applies by Kiddushin. If somebody gives his wife, or gives a woman Kiddushin and says, here is Kiddushin on the condition that I'm going to give you 200 zuz, so the halacha there is, again, she is married to him and he has to give it. Same machlokes, Rav Huna says that he has to give it, but the marriage is chal right away. And Rav Yehuda says he has to give it, and when he will give it, then the marriage will be chal. Until then, it's not chal. Gemara explains why do we have to say both cases. So the Gemara explains the difference as follows. The case of the get, he is most likely reluctant to divorce her. So it's more likely that he wants it to be chal later, give himself some time to change his mind. And therefore, if Rav Yehuda would have said his case there, I would not have known that he says it in the case of Kiddushin, also where he's probably in a rush to do it when he's in a hurry, and there I would have thought that he agrees to Rav Huna that it's chal right away. The svara to go the other way is as follows. In the case of the Kiddushin, she's probably embarrassed to demand the money from him. In the case of the get, he's not embarrassed to demand the money from her. So therefore, in the case of the get, it's more secure for him to allow it to be chal later because he'll go after her to make sure he gets the money. However, in the case of Kiddushin, it's more logical that we would say she has to give it first, or he has to give it first before the Kiddushin's chal, because otherwise she's never going to end up collecting it, and then you're going to have all kinds of halachic issues. Therefore, if Rabbi Yehuda would have only said that you have to wait for it to be chal till you receive the money in the case of Kiddushin, I would not know to say that in case of the Gittin. And Rav Huna would have only said that it's chal right away in the case of the Gittin, I would not know that he says that as well in the case of Kiddushin. And therefore, for each Mani Amar, we have a reason as to say both cases. The Gemara now asks two kashas on Rav Yehuda, two brises that clearly say not like Rav Yehuda. The Gemara is going to give one answer for both of them. So the first brise says as follows: somebody gives his wife a get and says, here's your get on the condition you give me 200 zuz. And Bryce says clearly, even though the get is torn or lost by the time she gives him the money, she is divorced. However, she cannot marry someone else until she actually gives the money. That clearly shows not like Rabbi Yehuda, because it clearly shows that the get is chal from now, from the time that she gives it retroactively. The reason though that she cannot get married in the meantime is because she may never give the money, so we're not going to let her do that because it may never end up happening. Second brisa says, again, a man says to his wife, here's your get on the condition you give me 200 zuz, and this time he died. So if she gave the money already, okay, so then she's divorced and she does not have to do yibum. If she didn't give the money, so now you have a machlokes, could she give it to the yarshim or not? The Tanakama says no, there's nothing she can do to save this get. She's an almana and she has to do yibum. Shimon ben Gamliel holds he can give it to her husband's father, brother, or any other relatives. He give it to the Yarshim. The Machlekes is, the Gemara says, when a man says give it to me, does he mean me, or does he mean me or anyone who's coming in my place? And therefore you give it to my Yarshim as well. However, both opinions agree that there's no problem with being a get lachar misa. It's not going to be a get after he dies, even though she's only giving the money after he dies. So obviously it's not being chal at the time that she's giving the money, it's being chal at the time that he gave the get. So you see clearly not like Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yehuda answers, it's a machlekes tanaim. This is Rebbe. Rebbe holds is that any time somebody says a condition, it's always automatically from now. There's an automatic me'achshav. And the Rabbanon disagree. And I hold like the Rabbanon. So now the Gemara's not so sure that the Rabbanon really disagree about this point specifically. The Gemara quotes Rabbi Zera, who says when we were in Vavel, we said we saw halacha of Rav Huna in the name of Rebbe. Anybody who says Manas, anybody who makes it tonight, it's as if he wants to be chal from now. When we came to Eretz Yisrael, we found Rav Asi was sitting and he was saying in Rav Yechanan that that's not true. Everybody agrees when someone makes a condition that it's as if he says from now. That's not what the machlekes is about. The machlekes is when somebody says mahayim ulachar misa. That is, if someone says, here's your get from today and after I die, those are contradictory terms. Which one does he mean? There, Rebbe says it means mahayim. We go with from today. That is where the other Tana, which is the name, argues. So that's what the machlekes is. But according to Rav Yechanan, then, there is no machlekes about if somebody just generally makes it tonight. Rebbe says that there's an automatic mehayim that's from today, which is exactly Rav Huna, and there's no one who argues, and Rav Yehuda, there's no one to hide behind. So I end up with the machlekes. What is the case of the machlekes between Rebbe and the Chachamim? Where is this machlekes about? According to Yehuda, the machlekes is in a case of a regular tonight, and he holds like the Chachamim who hold that there is no automatic mehayim. It's only chal when the tonight is fulfilled. According to Rabbi Yechanan, there's no machlekes in that case, and the machlekes is only in the case of mahayim ulachar misa. The Gemara brings a brisa that says the machlekes between Rebbe and the Chacham in the case of mahayim ulachar misa. Rebbe says it's get ve'ena get, it's a suffix. Rebbe says that it's a get, he says kazeh get, and the Tanakama says it's a get ve'ena get, it's a suffix. So the Gemara says, according to Rabbi Yehuda, what's pshat in this brisa? According to Rabbi Yehuda, then Rebbe argues and the Chachamim in both halachas. He argues about a standard tonight, and he argues about a mayam lachamisa. Why doesn't this brisa say the bigger chiddush? Say that it's mayam lachamisa. Say that they argue there. So there's no one to say we argue here to show that even here, even though he never said any mehayim, he just made it tonight. Rebbe still holds that it's chal from. It's as if he said mehayim, and it's chal from the time that he gave the get. So Gemara says, well, why don't you say the case of Mehayim lachamisa and tell me the chiddush of the Rabbanon who aser, and that's only chal later. Gemara says koycha dehetera. Oh, if it's always a bigger chiddush to say the one who's more makel and how far he's makel. The Gemara now refers back to the Mishnah where we had said that if somebody says to his wife, here's a get on the condition that you give me 200 zuz within 30 days, she has to give it within the 30 days, otherwise it's not a get. So Gemara says, obviously, what's chiddush? The chiddush is that he means it. We would have thought maybe he doesn't really mean it, he's just trying to encourage her to give it faster, but he's not saying that he won't accept it afterwards. No, if she misses the deadline, the tie is off. Now the Gemara goes to the next part of the Mishnah where Shimon ben Gamliel brought a story from somebody in Tzidain where she was supposed to give his itztali, she lost it, and they said you can still give the value of it. So I want to know, what does that story have to do with anything? How does that come into this Mishnah? The Gemara answers by inserting an entire machlekes into this Mishnah. The Gemara says that the Tanakama says that if he says tonight I want my itztali, and she loses the itztala, so the Tanakama says there's no way out because he wanted his specific itztala. Rosh Hashanah disagrees and says no, she can give the value. And then it brings the story that happened in Tzidain, in that exact case, and the Rabbanan Paskin that he can give the itztala, and therefore it's a proof to him. Now, on this machlekes, the Gemara has a shayla. What happens if somebody gives wife again, makes it tonight, he has to give me 200 zuz, and then he says, you know what, I forgive it. I overlook it, I am moichel it. Now, we had a machlokes before, if money could take the place of the coat. That means, can you substitute something for something of equal value? What about here, where he's Michael? Does the mechila count as a fulfillment of the Tanai, and therefore she's divorced? Or is he Michael and she doesn't give the money, but that doesn't mean she's divorced now because she didn't fulfill the Tanai, even though he was Michael? So Gemara says this question could be asked both according to the Rabbanan and according to Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. According to the Rabbanan, we said you have to give the exact coat. You can't give something else in exchange. But here, he accepted something else in exchange. There, the question was, what did he mean? Did he mean only this and not something else? So here, obviously, he's not sticking to that. Even if it's what he meant, he's accepting this. According to Rishim Gamliel, though, you could ask also, because maybe Rishim Gamliel only said it where you're giving something of equal value. Here, you're not giving anything. So there's no fulfillment of the Tanai at all. So this is a question that we have. So this was asked from Rav Asi. It was asked by Rav Asi to Rav Yechanan. Rav Yechanan answered, is not Megureshes, does not count as a fulfillment of the Tanai, and she's not divorced. Gemara has a kasha from a similar case. This is where somebody is trying to extort money from someone. He says, listen, you have to give a core of wheat to my son and 2 barrels of wine. If you don't, you have an Isser Hana from all my things. You can't even have any Hana from me. So what's the halacha here? So Rameir says, okay, so there's no way out of this. He either has to accept the Isser Hana or he has to pay it. Chachamim say the person could be Michael if he wants. He could say, it's as if I was a Makabali. He doesn't have to have Hataras Nadarim. He could say, it counts as if I got it. So that means that a Mechila takes the place of an actual reception as far as fulfilling a Tanai. So here also, the Mechila should take the place as if he actually received it. So it says there's no comparison. In the case of the get, he was trying to cause her pain. He did not successfully cause her pain if he's Meichelit, so therefore the Tanai is not fulfilled. In the case of the guy who wanted stuff for her son, he was trying to get Parnasa for his son. He wanted his son to be okay. If his son turned out not to need it, so then he could say, I don't need it anymore, and there it fulfills the Tanai. So there's no comparison. Gemara now brings an incident which leads to another machlekes, which Gemara wants to say is totally on the machlekes between the Rabbanan and Rav Shimon Gamliel. This is a landowner who was making a deal with his oris, with his sharecropper. He said, look, the going rate is most people water the field 3 times a year and they collect a quarter of the produce. So you water 4 times a year and you could collect a third of the produce, which obviously is more. Anyway, what ended up happening was they made the deal, but it rained on the time of the 4th watering, so he didn't have to do it. So the machlokes between Rabban and Rav Yosef was, does he have to give him the extra that he had promised for the 4th watering? He didn't do the 4th watering. But on the other hand, the 4th watering happened, and he lucked out. So Rav Yosef says he didn't do it, he doesn't get the extra money. Rabba says he lucked out, so therefore he will get extra money. Someone wants to say that Rav Yosef is going like the Rabbanan. You cannot replace watering for rain. You cannot use the rainwater as your watering, just like you can't use someone else's shirt instead of his own shirt. And the Rabba is holding Rav Shimon ben Gamliel that you can. So those are machlokes in line up. Gemara says it can't be because the halacha in the machlokes Rabban and Rav Yosef is almost always like Rabba. There's very few exceptions. This is not one of them. So we know that the halacha is like Rabba in this case. However, the halacha is not like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. So you would have a contradiction as to what the halacha is if it was the same shita. So therefore it's not the same shita. Everyone here really agrees with the Rabbanon. Both Rabban and Rav Yosef agree with the Rabbanon. You cannot replace a shirt, or you cannot be meichel the money that he demanded. However, so Rav Yosef fits in that. That's why he says that you can't replace the watering with the rainwater. But Rabbi here says, no, I would say that the Rabbanan would agree here, because there the Rabbanan said he's trying to cause her pain as part of the divorce process, and therefore he demands the money, and if he's meichel the money, then he didn't fulfill the Tanai. But here, he just wants the watering, so he got the watering that he wanted, so there's no reason that his Tanai should be considered unfulfilled.